Okay, great. Okay, so this is the last class of ABG series of classes, and in this we'll be discussing the examples of various ABGs so that we can interpret ABGs clearly and easily when they come in front of us in the ICU or in the emergency. So it is like a amalgamation of both the classes, and we'll go through a few ABGs and how to apply whatever we've learned in the last two classes in this class. Okay, so a question to all of you: for every liter of increase in oxygen, the FiO2 increases by? I need answers on the chat. So the FiO2 will increase by what? Sahaj has given a correct answer. Great. So Aditya, Sahaj, Shivika, so 0.04 or 4%, the FiO2 will increase by 0.4%. So if you, 4% or 0.04 FiO2 because it's in fraction. So when you started the patient on 2 liters of oxygen, for example, so if you need to calculate FiO2, if the patient is not on a ventilator, if patient is on oxygen, you need to calculate it. You increase it by 4 for every liter of oxygen. Correct. So let's look at this ABG. In this, we will have to. This is an ABG I've kept for assessment of oxygenation. So remember, we learned two methods of calculation of oxygenation: PO2 by FiO2 ratio, and the other was a arterial alveolar gradient method. So let's look at both the methods in this case. What is the PO2 over here? I am giving you an information that the patient is on 2 liters of O2, right? So let's look at the first method, PO2 by FiO2. What is the PO2? PO2 is 56 and FiO2 is, how much is the FiO2? Can you tell me how much is the FiO2? What will be the denominator? Anyone? Correct. So it will be 0.29, and this ratio comes out to be 193. So if the patient has a clinical picture of ARDS in this case, you will realize that the patient falls into the category of moderate ARDS. You remember 200 to 300 is mild, less than 200 moderate, and less than 100 is severe. Okay, so this is the first method. The second method is alveolar oxygen. How do you calculate the alveolar oxygen? We learned this in the first class. 713 into FiO2 minus PCO2 into 1.2. So you calculate that keeping FiO2 as 0.29, which we just calculated. The PaO2, which is the alveolar oxygen, comes out to be 130. We know that the arterial oxygen is 56, so 130 minus 56 comes out to be 74. And remember, the normal value of alveolar arterial gradient is 5 to 25, and anything above 20 is generally considered as hypoxemia. And so we got a value of 74, and this patient has severe hypoxemia. So both the formulae just come out in favor of a hypoxemia in this patient. Okay, yeah. Next, can anyone tell me what the disorder this is? So the pH is 6.7, right? I need an answer. Just look at pH, PCO2, and bicarbonate. So pH is 6.79 or 6.8. PCO2 is 44, and bicarbonate is actual value is 6.7. Anyone? Anyone? Just look at it. It's acidosis, correct? PCO2 is going up or down? I'm waiting for an answer. Single answer will also do. Okay, so Raj Lakshmi says metabolic acidosis, and Sahaj says metabolic plus respiratory acidosis. Anyone else? Sahaj is correct. Why? Because look at this. The pH is going down and PCO2 is going up also. So remember our baseline value for PCO2 is 40. So definitely there is respiratory acidosis going on, plus bicarbonate is also going down, right? So when I told you when bicarbonate and CO2 go in the opposite direction, it cannot be anything but a mixed disorder. So this is a mixed disorder. Both the processes are contributing to the acidosis in the body. And thus this is a metabolic acidosis with the respiratory acidosis, correct? For example, if it were only a metabolic acidosis, Raj Lakshmi wrote metabolic acidosis. If it were only a metabolic acidosis, to compensate for the fall in bicarbonate, the PCO2 would also fall now. The PCO2 is not falling, it is actually rising. That means it has to be a mixed acidosis. So it's a respiratory acidosis with a metabolic acidosis. Okay. Let's look at another ABG, and this time we have to calculate the validity. I don't know if you remember or not. This is the small formula that we've taught you to calculate H plus ions. So just revising so that I'm sure people have forgotten this, but for checking the validity of the ABG, you need to know what is the concentration of H plus ions. So H plus ions formula is 24 into PCO2 by bicarbonate. In this ABG, what is the PCO2? 16.6. Okay, and bicarbonate is 6.3. So you apply this formula 24 into 16.6 by 6.3, and this is the H plus ions you get. Now you compare this with the table that you've remembered or you've put up in your ICU or you've put up in your emergency department. And this table says that at 63 H plus ions, the pH should be around 7.2. Now you look at the ABG, it is 7.195, which is almost equal to 7.2. And hence this ABG is valid, right? So before doing any ABG, ideally you should check the validity of the ABG. But anytime during an ABG analysis, you find some value haywire. For example, if the pH shows 6.9 over here, when you see a lot of ABGs, you'll start realizing you see pH of 6.9 and you see bicarbonate of 6. You think there's something wrong going on. So you check the validity of the ABG then. Okay, so this is a valid ABG and this is how you check it. Yeah. So next question, what is the disorder? pH is 7.663, PCO2 is 28 and bicarbonate is 30. Let's see who all can solve it. I've given very simple ABGs for questioning so that there's no confusion. At the end of the class, there'll be a small doubtful ABG. But yeah, I'm waiting for an answer from someone. What disorder is this? Anyone? Okay, so Sachin says metabolic alkalosis. Anyone else? Does anyone differ from that answer? I think we can switch on. Shall we unmute everybody? Okay, so Shivika says metabolic alkalosis, respiratory alkalosis, but Dr. Paneet also says that. Yeah, so that is correct. The pH is going up, so obviously there is alkalosis, right? And PCO2 is going down. So yes, that is the process responsible for the increase in pH. And bicarbonate is also going up. That means there is a metabolic component to the alkalosis also. Hence, this is a mixed disorder again, and it's a mixed alkalosis going on this time. For example, if it were only a respiratory alkalosis, the CO2 would go down, and to compensate, bicarbonate would also go down. Okay. Therefore, as mentioned before, if CO2 and bicarbonate go in the opposite directions, it has to be a mixed disorder. And then you just have to decide if it's an alkalosis or an acidosis. Okay, so that's clear. Okay, look at this ABG now. I used this ABG in the last class also. It's a very beautiful ABG. Valid or invalid? Again, let me remind you the formula. H plus is equal to 24 into PCO2 divided by bicarbonate. Let's calculate. 24 into 78.6 divided by bicarbonate is 38.4. Okay, so that H plus comes out to be 49. Now you look at where 49 is. Okay, it's around 7.3, and you look at the pH in this ABG. It is 7.29. So this is a valid ABG, correct? So the answer to the first question is it's a valid ABG, right? Is it an acute or a chronic? Now you've seen the ABG. What is it? Is it a respiratory or metabolic disorder primarily? Look at the pH. pH is 7.29. So it's an acidosis going on. PCO2 is 78, correct? So it is increased. And bicarbonate is 38. So obviously PCO2 is responsible for the acidosis going on. Bicarbonate is trying to compensate. So this is a respiratory acidosis. Now I told you either you can decide clinically if it's an acute or a chronic respiratory acidosis, but there is a formula also that I mentioned in the second class. And this formula is delta H plus by delta PCO2. Now you've calculated the H plus, which is 49, to check the validity of the ABG. So the delta H is 9 because the normal H value is 40. See, you see this 7.4 pH is normal. So the normal H plus ions is 40. So the delta H becomes 9. And the delta PCO2 in this case is, what is the normal CO2? Normal CO2 is 40. And in this case is 78. So the delta CO2 is 38. So our ratio is 9 by 38, which is 0.23. And in the last class, if you remember, I told you that if this ratio is less than 0.3, it's a chronic respiratory disorder. If it is more than 0.8, it's an acute disorder. And if it's between 0.3 and 0.8, it's an acute on chronic disorder. Okay. So the answer to the second question is, if it's an acute or a chronic disorder, the answer is chronic. Okay. Now you've done that, you know it's primarily a respiratory disorder and it's a chronic respiratory disorder and the ABG is valid. How do you see if it's a pure or a mixed disorder? It becomes very simple now, no? You remember that cartwheel? For respiratory disorders, remember the cartwheel. 1, 4, 2, and 5. Okay. Now we know that this is a chronic respiratory acidosis. So this is the value that we have to use. The PCO2 has increased from 40 to 78. So there is an increase of 38, almost 40. For every 10 increase, there should be for every 10 increase in CO2, there should be a 4 increase in bicarbonate. What is the bicarbonate? 38, right? 38.4. So for every 10 increase, that means for an increase, so almost 40, it should almost increase by 60. And it has come to be 38.4. Expected value is 40. Now, because you see that it is not exactly an increase of 40, but it's an increase of 38, you can give some respite to the bicarbonate. And it has increased normally as it should have. So this case is a pure respiratory acidosis, and it's a chronic disorder, and the ABG is valid. Okay, this is a very good example. I will send you this presentation again, and you must study this ABG again and again, and you can figure out if it's a chronic disorder, acute disorder, and if the compensation is perfect or not. Rarely do you get such ABGs where the compensation is so perfect. Okay, this disorder, I need an answer. pH 7.08, PCO2 59, bicarbonate 50. Simple again, very simple. You can type in your answers. I tried the voice thing, it's not working well. What is the disorder? Anyone? So pH is falling, PCO2 is increasing, so obviously there's a respiratory acidosis, and bicarbonate is falling, so there's a metabolic acidosis also. Both are in the opposite direction. It has to be a mixed disorder. Okay, let's look at the another ABG now. What is the disorder in this case? Again, pH is 7.49, bicarbonate is 32, right? And PCO2 is 40. What is it? So obviously there's an alkalosis going on, right? And bicarbonate is increasing. So there's definitely a metabolic alkalosis also. But look at PCO2. PCO2 is normal. Remember, you can also apply the formula 0.7 into bicarbonate plus 21 plus minus 2. Okay. So 0.7 into bicarbonate is, how much is bicarbonate? Almost 30. 29, sorry. Bicarbonate is 29.9, 30. So 21 plus 21 plus minus 2. 42 plus minus 2. So it's almost a pure metabolic alkalosis, but you expect PCO2 to rise a little bit, no, to compensate. Because the bicarbonate is increasing, you expect the PCO2 to rise a little bit. Okay, that is why this is almost like a mixed metabolic alkalosis with some amount of respiratory alkalosis also. Okay. Okay, let's come to gap ratio. It is a confusing thing in the last class. Remember, gap ratio is used in metabolic disorders when we find a high anion gap. So all the mud pilers disorders that we studied causing metabolic acidosis of high anion gap type, you calculate the gap ratio. And remember this, when gap ratio is 1, it is pure AGMA, which is pure anion gap metabolic acidosis. When it's more than 1, there is an additional metabolic alkalosis also. And when it's less than 1, it's high anion gap metabolic acidosis plus normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. Let's look at an example for that. Okay, so the pH is 7.1, bicarbonate is 6. Okay, and PCO2 is 19. Obviously, so this is a metabolic acidosis, right? Now let's look at the anion gap. Anion gap is calculated as sodium minus chloride plus bicarbonate, which comes out to be 30 in this case, correct? So the delta anion gap with the baseline anion gap being 12 is 18. Okay, and you now look at the delta bicarbonate. Normal bicarbonate is 24 minus the bicarbonate in this ABG, which comes out to be 18. So the delta bicarbonate is 18. The gap ratio is 18 by 18. It is 1. So such an ABG, if you get, it is a pure high anion gap metabolic acidosis. If this ratio were more than 1, there will be an additional metabolic alkalosis also. And if it were less than 1, there will be an additional non-anion gap metabolic acidosis also. Okay, you must remember that. So this in a way tells us that if you get a pure high anion gap metabolic acidosis, it means that the anion gap that has occurred is purely because and is being compensated by the bicarbonate, and there is no other factor going on. Okay, and if that does not happen, either there is a metabolic alkalosis going on also, or there is a normal anion gap metabolic acidosis also going on. Okay, let's look at another ABG. What is the disorder?
Sure.
I need an answer. So pH is 6.68. Bicarbonate is 3.7. PCO2 is 31. Okay, let's calculate. Just to remind you, in case of metabolic acidosis, the formula is 1.5 into bicarbonate plus 8 plus minus 2. That is the expected PCO2. When you have a metabolic acidosis, which in this case is the case, this is how you calculate the expected PCO2. So now I need you to calculate and tell me if this is a mixed disorder, if this is a pure metabolic acidosis, what is going on? 2 minutes for this. Bicarbonate here is 3.7. Let's take bicarbonate as 4. 1.5 into 4 plus 8 plus minus 2. So this is 6 plus 8 plus minus 2, 14 plus minus 2. So your PCO2 should be 12 to 16. Correct? But what is your PCO2? Yeah, Rajlakshmi is correct. She is exact. 11.5 to 15.5. But our PCO2 here is 31. Obviously, it is much higher than the expected PCO2. That means there is also a respiratory acidosis going on. Whenever you see an ABG with such pH, no, 6.6, 6.7, sometimes even 6.5, it is very rare that the patient has a pure disorder, because it is very difficult. Even if the bicarbonate goes down to 2, the pH will come down to 6.9 to 6.99 or something, but it doesn't go to 6.6 or 6.7 like that. Whenever there is a very high alkalosis or a very low pH that you find, always think of a mixed disorder and always look for it. Okay, so now you see, even though the CO2 has decreased from 40 to 31, this is still a mixed disorder, and it's a respiratory acidosis and a metabolic acidosis combined. Okay, let's look at another ABG. I've put up a lot of metabolic acidosis because that is the most common disorder you're going to get in your ICUs or emergencies. Okay, so pH is 7.004, PCO2 is 23.8, bicarbonate is 5.8. Let's take it as 6. What is going on? So this is also a metabolic acidosis, correct? Just to ingrain the formula in your head, I've put up this ABG again. The formula is 1.5 into bicarbonate plus 8 plus minus 2 is the expected PCO2 in case of metabolic acidosis. Okay, so 1.5 into 6 plus 8 plus minus 2. So this is 17 plus minus 2. So your expected PCO2 is 15 to 19. And in this case, your PCO2 is 23.8. So even with such a low PCO2 of 23, you still realize that the patient has some respiratory acidosis also going on. So that is the importance of remembering the formula for compensation, because on the face of it you see this ABG and you will see in your ICU and you will say that the patient has such a low bicarbonate of 6, you will say this is a metabolic acidosis or kya, you don't have to do anything else. But this patient also has a respiratory acidosis, so a BiPAP support to this patient will help him. Okay, that is how important compensations are. I think this is the final part of my class. You can ask questions now. We have 5 minutes. You can go through all these videos. I've recorded all of them and the presentations I'll be sending on the group. And I'll also take suggestions as to what topics you want to be covered in the next classes. Okay, so you have to remember validity. You have to remember all the formulae for compensation, especially metabolic acidosis and respiratory acidosis. These are the two most common. You have to remember those. High and iron gap metabolic acidosis. Initially, it is important to know if it's a high or a low and iron gap acidosis. That's okay. But when you go deeper into it, you can go into delta gap. Sir, Shivika asks, can you please tell about bicarbonate replacement in case of acidosis, and when and how much and in what time? Okay, so bicarbonate is a tricky thing. It's very easy for people to give bicarbonate, but the general dictum is that you should not give bicarbonate unless the pH is 6.9 or less. Okay, so if the pH is 6.9 or less, that is when the bicarbonate should be given. Another school of thought is you should not give bicarbonate if it is more than 10. So if bicarbonate is more than 10, they say there is hardly any use of giving bicarbonate. And the third thing that you asked is how much and in what time to give. Bicarbonate, many clinicians give bicarbonate as a direct bolus dose. It should not be given. You should give it around, so there's a 1 vial of bicarbonate, ampule comes as 25 milliequivalents. You can give around 50 milliequivalents, so two ampules over 1 to 2 hours. Some say even 2 to 3 hours. So you should give bicarbonate slowly, and you should give it only when the pH is around 6.9 or less. Some say even 7. And the bicarbonate value is generally less than 10. That is when you should generally give bicarbonate, and it should be given slowly in a dextrose based solution over 1 to 2 hours. Does that answer your question, Shiv? Aditya, should we give bicarbonate in respiratory diseases like type 2 or shall? No, you should not give. Bicarbonate has no role in respiratory diseases. Bicarbonate is given in metabolic acidosis only. Okay, and it has just to please your eyes that the pH is becoming normal. You should not give bicarb. That also bicarb is a salvaging procedure. Yes, says if the pH is less than 7 or 6.9 and the bicarbonate is going down, you can give bicarbonate in cases of anuria. But again, if the pH is normal and there's nothing else going on in and the bicarbonate is holding normally, you should not give bicarbonate. Just anuria is not an indication for bicarbonate. No. Bicarbonate is used very haywire. It should be used very cautiously. Okay. How much? I think we have 5 minutes remaining. If there are other questions. Bolus, I don't know why they say you should not give bolus, but I've read about it. They say you should not give it, but there's no reason why you should not. I've seen many senior clinicians giving it, but then I listened to some lectures which said that you should not give it. It is given slowly, but nobody gives the reason why. I will go into that again. Maybe I'll look up and I'll tell you why it should not be given bolus. Anything else? You can suggest various topics. Some people were telling me to take up medical topics next. So, okay. So Shivika asks, sir, in case of failure or volume overload, is it contraindicated? It is indicated only in a very few places, bicarbonate. So I don't think you should use it anyway. if there is no indication. But I am not sure if it is contraindicated in what failure, by the way, renal failure or heart failure? What are you saying? Which failure? Shivika has asked, sir, if it is contraindicated in failure or volume overload. I don't think it is contraindicated, because if it's a life-saving measure, for example, if the pH is less than 7, bicarbonate is 8, then you have to give it anyways. It's a life-saving measure, because that severe acidosis can cause a sudden cardiac arrest anytime. That is what it generally salvages more than anything else. It does not correct the underlying pathology which is causing the metabolic acidosis. It is just like giving calcium gluconate so that the acidosis improves a little and the heart does not go into a sudden arrest. But don't give it unless it is absolutely necessary. So if in case of a failure or a volume overload, the pH is very low and the bicarbonate is very low, you can give it. Because if you wait for it, the acidosis might kill the patient till that time. Okay. Okay then. Okay, we're ending this class. We will have discussions on the group, and please on the group suggest some topics. My class will happen every fortnight. So we have 2 weeks. So in this week, please decide the topic so that I have time to prepare for the class. Okay. We can range from anything. I have read something about hyponatremia, hypokalemia, hyperkalemia, etc. So we can go on to electrolytes. We can also think about ECG, where how to localize the infarct on an ECG, which vessel is responsible. And the other thing is we can choose one medicine topic and then we can study about it, one disease, anything. So you can suggest on the group what you want as the next class and I'll prepare accordingly. Okay. So great. I'm ending the class. Thank you.